Hello and welcome to Texans Talk Money. I'm Kyla, your host and a peer financial coach at Texan Smart. Every episode, we will be joined by another peer financial coach from my office, where we will be navigating all the roads on how to handle your money as a college student. So sit back and get your wallets ready to be Texan Smart.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Texans Talk Money. Today, we are super lucky to be joined by a very special guest, our Tarleton State University president, Dr. James Hurley. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
We are super excited to bring in this new perspective and discuss a different outlook on financial literacy and why it's so important for our university students to understand it and value it the way we do. I guess we can start with kind of just filling in some basic FinLit knowledge as we have shortened it. Addison,
like
if you
that.
want to...
FinLit. I like that. It's a new term for me.
Yes.
Rolls off the tongue a little easier than financial literacy every single time.
Especially when you use it in every other sentence
I
with
love
your
it.
job.
That's fair.
Absolutely.
Well done.
So, what exactly is financial literacy? So, that is the ability to understand and effectively use various financial skills in order to make informed financial decisions. So, really anything that you can think about that involves money, whether it's just buying groceries, paying rent, buying a car, anything, credit, debit, whatever you want to talk about. And a lot of people, think about some of your basic things like that. And
Definitely.
That's just your umbrella term for everything financial. And so why should we care about financial literacy in college?
I know that is definitely a question that I asked myself kind of a lot when I first got here, which is kind of, I guess, a little ironic considering now I work at Texan Smart. But it's really important. It really is. I think that word efficiently is effectively, interchangeable, I guess, should kind of dominate that sentence, because it's great to have your basic knowledge of financial literacy, but to be able to effectively use these tips and tricks that we give you along the way is really just going to set you up for that success. The earlier is the better. It doesn't matter that you're just now 18 to 25, whatever that may be. It is so important to start now because it prevents those bigger mistakes later on down the road. It is that foundation to fixing all of those problems, or at least a large majority of them that can be avoided. Life does get a little crazy, as I'm sure everyone understands, especially as we roll into the holiday season. We have a few questions that we're actually going to talk about and ask since we are covering our FinLit. So, Dr. Hurley, why do you kind of believe that financial literacy is so essential for our college students today? And why is it super important for them to learn these financial skills now rather than waiting until their parents' age, so on and so forth?
Well, it's a really good question. And let me first start by saying a couple things. First and foremost, I'm really thankful that our students, and not just our students at Tarleton State, but any college student that can access this podcast, will have you as a resource, and we'll have this podcast as a resource, and the other resources and podcasts that you've provided.
Of course.
It's really important to think about financial literacy from so many aspects. I want to go back, though, and talk about the definition. It says the ability to understand and effectively use various financial skills. I would probably include financial skills and tools, right? Because now technology in terms of AI, and I don't use AI. I need to. My chief of staff and my executive cabinet, they've been using AI and trying to get me in a position and to better accept it. I accept it. I think it's really important. My sons use it in college.
Absolutely.
Right? I've just not went there yet, but
It's
I'm
a
sure
learning curve, I feel.
It really is. And part of that is having enough time to be able to navigate. But I think having the skills and being able to combine those skills with the various technology and technological tools that are available for not only students and young people, but people alike.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's really important. I think it's essential to know the importance of financial literacy. First, let's start with you all, our college students. The last time I checked, federal student loan debt was one of very few, maybe the only, debt that's immune to bankruptcy. Right? And so when you take out a federal student loan, you're stuck, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've been there. I often remind students, don't forget that Kendall and I were once broke college kids ourselves
Yes.
too.
Most definitely.
Right, trying to find enough money to go out on a date and take her to a movie and pizza and all that. So I've been there, and we're very sensitive. That's why, and I was a first generation poverty product. I came
Yes.
from one of the most impoverished regions in the country, the 5th Congressional District in East Kentucky. And so I get it. I'm really sensitive to trying to keep costs down for our students, whether it's tuition and fees, across the gamut. And so starting with students, understanding that financial debt, AKA our student loans, they don't go away. And so we have to be really mindful as institutions of higher ed that we don't surmount debt on young people that they can never unsurmount. Because
Absolutely.
it's a
100%.
burden, it's an anchor that they just can't get rid of. Bankruptcy doesn't protect them. So understanding that. All right, so starting with that from a college perspective. And then moving forward, just understanding simple financial concepts like a P&L, a profit and loss, a statement. That doesn't necessarily pertain to a business. That can pertain to your personal life. So if someone asks you, what's your P&L, right? That's what's your profit, what's your loss,
Yes.
what's your net income at the end of the day. Just informing young people starting at the college level of the importance of understanding the need for financial literacy and understanding the importance of what it actually means.
I think that's a big thing that I've noticed is students not necessarily understanding why there is such a deep need for it. And I feel like that sometimes is how our adults, I say adults like we're not technically adults, but find those tricky situations more often than not is because they did find themselves in a
Right.
nasty situation and didn't have the tools to dig themselves out.
It happens to all of us. And so having this program, that's why I guess it was in 2019 when we started our SAC CLC 10-year reaffirmation process. And part of that was developing a quality enhancement plan, or QEP.
Yes.
And we were all just enamored with this Texan Smart, the financial literacy. How can we make our students aware? How can we better equip them to navigate the financial piece of life? And sometimes, irregardless, like for me, it's easy because my background, as you know, I'm a business, finance,
Yes,
and accounting
yes.
major. And so for me, it was always easy. For Kendall, my wife, it wasn't, because her background was very different. It was health sciences
Most definitely.
and elementary, elementary and middle school education, and then she went into healthcare. And so for she and I, we have two very different perspectives on financial literacy and management, and it just comes more natural. But for a lot of our students, it doesn't.
Definitely.
And so
100%.
that's why it's so important to have the Texan Smart program in place and having all of those resources available for our students. So
Which we love to hear that. We love to hear that we're
it's important. It is
Important,
important
yes.
work. It matters. It really matters. And so I'm glad you're doing what you're doing for. And I've had a lot of students stop me and either say thanks or, hey, I learned so much in our financial literacy seminar, or all the little things that we've been doing over the last 5 years to better equip students for now
yes.
and then post-graduation, when you will actually make some money that you will have to manage.
Yes. Which that's the end goal. Make that money,
Yes.
have good skills to manage it so
Right.
you keep that good money.
100%. I know for me, like even just working here for the past 3 months that I've been here, I've learned a lot of things that I was like, oh, like clarified things that were
Yes.
kind of like murky water for me, and
Yep.
I was like, I don't even know where to put my foot down with that, and I was worried about like what I was gonna do after this year with housing and stuff. And then after we did our whole podcast about it, I was like, this realm makes a lot more sense for me now. I know what's a better option for me. So it's not just we're telling you all this stuff and we know everything. We're learning as we work.
Exactly.
I know
Absolutely.
for most of us in the office, we did not come in with some crazy financial background or anything and having some perfect credit score or anything. We all came in as broke college kids trying to figure it out.
Me too. That's the way I started. And so but it's important that you recognize that. It's important that you share your stories. It's important to share that it's you're constantly growing and evolving.
Absolutely.
But the fact that you're sharing through this podcast and through seminars and all the other things that we do, and embedding some of this into our curriculum
Yes.
throughout our undergraduate, I think is really important too. So, yeah, I'm glad that other students have you all as a tool. And the practitioner approach is always the best. That's where you learn the most, is when you have to roll your sleeves up, figure it out yourself.
100%.
You know, you build the plane and you fly the plane at the same time, right?
Most definitely.
And that's important.
No, I love that y'all brought that up, because I think that's I think sometimes when I listen back to some of these podcasts, I'm like, sometimes these students might think that we came in with this crazy amount of knowledge of all this financial literacy, but we didn't. We came in here probably just as lost, if not some of us more lost than y'all out there. I mean, I'm an ag communication student. Math is not my first strong suit,
Right.
and I think it's important to recognize that financial literacy isn't just math.
No,
It's-
actually it's everything but math.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, the math is just the number,
Yep.
but the management thereof is what's really important.
Yes.
Yeah, so
I agree. I
Yeah.
think that sometimes leads to what scares students to get into the financial literacy. But as you just stated, it's really the most math you do half the time is your numbers. And going back to the technology comment, now we have Excel sheets which will do help you do those number factoring for your budgets. There's all kinds of budgets online. We talk about it all the time.
You've got your like Credit Karma, you've
Yes.
got your TurboTax, everything that's going to help you figure those out. If you don't know every step, they're going to help you through that. And I think that's why what Dr. Hurley, what you said about using those skills and the tools
right.
is
Yes.
a big thing.
Yeah, and we
100%.
didn't have those tools when I was in college, right? And so the technology, the advances in technology, have really made it so really advantageous for students and for people alike to start dabbling in early investments and the money market accounts and all the different things that you can do to diversify even if it's a little money, right?
It's just so accessible. It's so important, and it's so accessible now that we harp on it all the time, because it really is pretty, in my opinion, detrimental to your success as an adult. I know you mentioned that you were a first gen, coming kind of, for lack of better terms, bottom of the barrel financially.
Yep.
Do you have any advice for your first year students who are kind of coming into Tarleton, just starting to manage their own finances independently, not really sure where to go? Do you have any tidbits of advice for that?
Yeah, I do. Whether it's your first gen, poverty of wealth, etc. I wish someone would have told me when I was 18, 19 years old, entering college, start investing, even if it's a very small amount. Start investing in some type of stock, dividend, some type of money market account, even if it's a small amount. Because now, 28 years later, I would have had significant wealth in terms of, and that's all relative, more than I do now, because I would have been every month making some type of investment into an ETF or something, right? So find some type of investment opportunity, and don't worry about the amount. The amount could be very small. For example, start your own trade account, an online trade account where you're being very mindful. You're only investing in the S&P 500, where the return has been north of 10% over a 5 to 10 year period, and that compounds over time. And so think about, if you were to start investing now a very small amount over the next 20, 30, 40 years, the stock market every single year continues to grow.
Absolutely.
And you can't pay attention to the ups and downs, and just know that it's a long-term investment that will pay huge dividends. And so that's my first piece of advice. The second piece of advice I have for young people is you have to start building credit.
Yes.
And I didn't have a credit card, and I wished I would. Even if you cap the limit at $500 or $1,000 or $250, whatever that limit. I think most credit cards you can't get for less than $500 limits or $1,000. But pay those off monthly. It's not an amount that you're going to get yourself in $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 debt. You have to be disciplined. But building credit, identifying which credit card company you want to use, and start building the debt, start paying that off monthly, will pay massive dividends when you graduate from college and then you start to pursue your first home or auto loan, whatever.
Absolutely.
You have your own credit score, and then you start building upon that credit score. Those are two pieces of advice that no one gave me. Establish a line of credit, and also establish an investment pattern, because what happens is very early you develop these patterns of investment and investing in yourself, and then over time it's habitual.
Yep.
And it's something that you start building your budget around. And the last piece is build a budget, have a budget, and stick to the
100%.
budget. And that's hard.
We can agree it is
Yeah.
very difficult
hard.
at times.
That's
It's
what we
hard as
specialize in.
it's hard as a college student, but it's hard even post college. It doesn't get easier.
Yeah.
Right? Life gets harder when you have spouses and you have families and you have loved ones that may depend on you. And then you also have just stuff, right? Life happens. And so those are the three biggest pieces of advice.
Absolutely. And also, little tidbit, if you are feeling a little lost on that credit comment, we did just put out an episode recently on how to build credit from scratch as a student. If you need
good.
little extra guidance on that, I know that was huge for me. I got very lucky, and I have parents who, especially my father, is very adamant about building that credit, and I got very lucky. They put me on one of their credit cards, and they're responsible and helped boost my credit, and now I'm lucky enough to have my name on my car alongside of my dad. And so that credit is super important.
Yep.
And I didn't realize how important until I did start car shopping and realized how that affects your prices and everything like that when you get a little bit.
It compounds. It
Yes.
compounds.
Yep. That's a
for
very
sure.
good way to put it. I think we've kind of covered some of the benefits, but just if you're still feeling a little lost on what all these things can actually do for you in the long run, as we've said many times, these tools that we're talking about and these tips and tricks that we're getting from Dr. Hurley are so important, because, as we've stated, they do prevent these huge mistakes when life happens and when these emergencies happen. You never know when your house is going to flood, for God forbid.
Right.
Anything crazy like that happen, these tools, having that safety net that we talk about all the time, it prevents you from being so lost and so put out.
Having that cash reserve is critical, even if it can be a very small amount or a large amount. I wouldn't recommend setting on a large amount simply because you're not earning on that amount. It goes back to my investment principle.
Yes.
You're going to, over a 10-year period, the S&P 500 is going to pay more dividends and more return on your investment than any other form of investment. And so I think that's really, really important. The other thing that I would tell you, and I wanted to say this, we have so many great people in our community, but most likely in any community, any college kid that's listening to this, or college student, I should say, there are a lot of financial leaders and what are they called? Personal investment managers.
Yes.
Money investment managers, et cetera, that would really love to sit down with our Texans and give them some free advice on, and they're not going to charge you for that, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think of folks like Justin Haskey, who's my personal wealth advisor here in town. There's not a college student he wouldn't sit down and give some advice about. Here are some potential investment avenues and opportunities. He would give you personal advice on how he personally manages his, and that's just one person. We have so many great wealth advisors in this town, in this community, throughout our state and throughout the country that would do that for any college kid, because the chances are most of them were once broke college students themselves as well. And
Absolutely.
so paying it forward is really important.
That's a big thing. It's the worst thing they can say is no, they can't do that. The best thing is you get great advice from professionals. It can never help. Free.
Yeah, because someday you'll pay for it.
Exactly.
And their hope is, their business principle is, if they give you really good advice, when you do start making money, you're going to come back and use them as use their professional expertise. And they want to become your wealth manager, because that's what they do, right? So it's paying it forward, but it's also just investing in their Texans in a different way with their intellectual knowledge.
Absolutely. And that confidence, that is, for me, that's the biggest benefit that I think these tools and resources that we have available, not even just, as you've stated, on our university campus, but across Texas, across probably the nation. That confidence that you instill, especially if you start now and start young, that is everything. That is going to give you the ability to look at the next next generation of college students, and give them that help the same way that Dr. Hurley is coming out here today and giving that knowledge to those students who may not have those resources. So the confidence allows you to become that resource that you've always needed.
Yeah, and the key is, there's no amount too small or too large. That's so important. It's so important. Start small and just continue to invest.
And speaking of those resources, here we can get a little bit more in depth about ours. Is we have our offices like ours, Texan Smart, and then we also have a personal finance course in core curriculum that the university uses to really push that personal financial literacy, and really making sure that everybody knows what they need to know about money.
Absolutely.
Not just what it is, what it pertains, but what you need to know.
Right.
And so just want to ask, do you believe that universities have the responsibility to ensure students graduate with a basic knowledge of financial literacy?
100%. I think we have a moral, ethical, and social, and then we also have a financial obligation, because you're paying for us to render a service to enhance your social mobility, right? I mean, that's the premise of a degree, is to enhance your social mobility. How you define social mobility is different for all of us, but part of social mobility is being able to enhance gainful employment. And so how can you, 80+% of our students in the last survey that I read and reviewed of our Texans that attend Tarleton State, it's still to better their lives, to get a better job, quote unquote. And so we do have a responsibility, and that's why this program, the Texan Smart, was so important to us, back in 2019 when we started to develop, because I think it's the premise of success. I mean, you can't ignore the finances. And ensuring that our students are somewhat equipped to manage their personal finances and to manage their wealth is really important. So I do think we have a responsibility. I don't think we do enough in higher ed. I don't think we do enough here at Tarleton State. And so what would be great is to hear feedback from our students, and maybe this is something that you can help us develop. How can we be better? What resources can we enhance?
Definitely.
How can we provide more opportunities for our students to learn more about FitLit, right? Finlit, financial literacy. I think that those are really, really important. And so, yes, I do think we have a responsibility, but we need to do more.
Yes. That actually would be a great thing that we could talk about during April, which is actually Financial Literacy Month. We do a bunch of, since that is kind of the premise of our entire office, we're going to have a whole bunch of events going on. We're always a resource available to 24. Whenever the university is open, we're a resource.
It'd be really cool during that month. We should have, and I will moderate, so I think that will help get folks here. But we need to bring in folks like Justin Haskey and so many others. When we bring them in for one evening for just in the auditorium, any student that wants to come, in particular, those juniors and seniors that may be ready to take the next journey. and leave the gates of Tarleton and start their earning potential and gainful employment, et cetera. Gathering 3, 4, 5 of these individuals that are really, really skilled in this area, and being able to have our students to come in and ask questions and allow them to deliver some guiding principles, I think would be really cool for us to think about during that week.
Most definitely. We actually do invite out a guest speaker.
Oh, good.
But I think that would be a really interesting way to kind of get more engagement, is to bring in other people and bring in more experts.
Happy to help. Let me know if I can help.
Oh, absolutely. So I guess kind of now that y'all have heard a little bit of advice, a little bit of basics, you might be wondering, how do I even improve? Where do I go from here? I get all this knowledge. I understand that it's important. How do I improve? To start, we have to say, come to Texan Smart. We are a resource for all of our university students, and we love to be utilized. That is our, whether we realized it before we got hired or not, it has become, I'd say for the entire office, a passion of ours to help empower these students and get them excited and engaged about financial literacy. That's why we do the podcast. That's why we do all of the things that we do. So our first check off the box would be definitely come see us. We love to talk to y'all. We have people of all different backgrounds, so it's not,
right.
If one person's not the right fit, we can find that for you. How do I improve? Pay your bills on time, guys. As you stated, that credit card, it is a great tool, but it can also be
a detriment to your future. Yeah. Sure.
So pay your bills, pay your credit card, use little increments, and budget. We love to talk about it, but it is truly so important.
And don't take out more student loan money than you need.
Yes.
Only take what you need.
Only take what you need, because that never goes away. And that's something that I constantly remind students, in particular are graduate and professional students, because the cost of that education is so much more.
Yes.
Sometimes they feel like they need to take those loans out to live on, and those are really, really expensive decisions that will stay with you forever. So,
Most
take what
definitely.
you need. I love that. Take only what you need. I like that.
We preach that because, like you said, it doesn't go away. It affects you forever.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Yep. Not going away.
I guess kind of now that we've covered some of those basics of financial literacy, we can get into what I have labeled on this lovely piece of paper keeping us on track, called freebie questions, but they're more just to kind of get some more opinions and things on this super valuable topic.
So you touched on your journey and where you've come from financially, personally at least.
Yep.
And so just want to ask, how has your journey helped you develop your knowledge of finances, personal finance, FinLit, all around?
Yeah. So one thing that I tell college students, there's a difference between experience and evaluated experience. Right? And so you should always value the evaluated experience. Always evaluate your experiences. Just because you have experience, that doesn't mean you got better. Because if you continue to replicate, a mistake or an error or, just poor judgment in general, that experience isn't working out. If you've evaluated the experience and it's made you better, and you've grown from that, I think that's really important. So for me, in my personal journey, learning more about investment opportunities, investment strategies, developing a budget, understanding the importance of equity. And so equity is really, really important in life, having a home and those types of things that will benefit you for forever. Those were just things that I've had to learn. Kind of learn on the go. Even with a finance background, it's still, the journey is where, back to that practitioner approach, that's where you're going to learn the most. The other important thing is try to surround yourself with people that are living in a similar circumstance, but they're doing so with a level approach.
Most
Right?
definitely.
If you know that you can't hang with a certain person because of financial means, or they have uncontrolled spending habits, those are not the people you want in your inner financial literacy
Absolutely
circle,
not.
right?
No.
So ensuring that you surround yourself with people of like mind and like goals, I think that's really, really important. So throughout my journey, I've tried to identify mentors that I want to emulate, that I want to be more like, but also have similar goals and aspirations in terms, and I'm talking about financial goals and et cetera. So I think that's part of it. And then just, I would also encourage folks to enjoy the journey, because that's, you use that word, and not always focus on the destination. And so how can you enhance the destination? Well, you enhance the destination by enhancing the journey.
100%.
And so that's really important.
That.
Yeah. So
I like that a lot.
yeah, and I'm very guilty of always kind of looking ahead at what, 2 + 2 has to equal 4.
Yeah.
That's the only way to 4. Well, no, it's not. There are a lot of other ways to 4.
Most
Yeah,
definitely.
there are numerical equations that will get you to 4. It's not just 2 + 2.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I have to take a step back and think through, okay, what's the evaluated experience from this journey, and then how can you grow from it? And always try to grow forward. It's okay to fail. You don't want to replicate and duplicate failure, right?
Yeah.
You want to learn from your failures. But some of the greatest decisions I've made later in life, and certainly now in my presidency, 12 years into a presidency versus year 1, I failed back when I was a 38-year-old president trying to figure it out. I probably shouldn't have been a president then. I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've learned from those mistakes where we try not to replicate them now. But life is a constant evaluation of the journey.
Yeah.
I love the word the journey.
I think
like
that's so
that,
important.
Yeah.
the live in the now idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because if you can't focus on what's right in front of you, it's hard. It makes it honestly harder to make changes in the future, because
You're blinded.
you're
Absolutely.
only focusing on
Yep.
one thing, so you're not able to see everything else that could
Yep.
make a bigger impact. I like that.
Yep.
So what is okay? And I think you had another question.
I actually, I do want to backtrack a little bit. I liked the comment you made about surrounding yourself with those like-minded people. I've heard people say, many people now, but I think it might have been you actually who said it first at my freshman orientation or convocation, one of the two, me, that you actually become a makeup of the 5 people you surround yourself
Yeah.
with the most.
Yeah, the
And
small
I think,
tribe. Yeah.
I think that's super important to remember, especially like you said, when you're bringing up those financial goals, because Timmy may be able to go and run his credit card $8,000 into debt, but
James cannot.
I sure cannot either. There is no way I would
Well, I
recover.
can now, but I couldn't then, right?
Yes.
And so you've got to know where you are in each, back to your in the moment.
Yeah.
That
Be
was a
realistic.
great
Yes.
statement.
Make
just-
sure you have the same goals, realistic goals, That's
That's right.
something I always say. I'm like, yeah, I want this, but that's not a realistic goal. So really, this
But
is
it goes
what I
back
want.
to the budget, right? If you
Yes.
have a budget
Yeah.
and you understand the end result of what you want that budget to accomplish, then you make decisions inside. And
Yeah.
you can always, budgets can move, and you can move priorities, but you have to have a kind of
Yeah.
a starting point and an ending point.
Yeah.
Yes. I just thought that was very important to touch on. But I think
I'm glad you listened at orientation. Thank you.
I do.
Yeah, you were the one. You were the
Kaiton's
one.
the listener.
It got me. It got me
You were the
thinking a
one.
lot about a lot of things, but especially now being in this role that I am, the financial journey of it all, because it
Makes a
truly
difference.
that, and I hear all the time that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
You're in big trouble.
And
Yeah.
I think those two things put together, especially in this financial literacy world that we're discussing, are super important
Yep.
because we can always learn. I
Absolutely.
mean, we're certified peer financial coaches, but let me tell you, we learn every single day when people come in and ask us questions, and we're like, oh my goodness, I actually
We have to find
don't
the
know how
answer
to answer
together.
that to you. Let's
Right.
find
let
it.
Let me step out real quick.
Absolutely.
Well, and that's okay. I mean, that's part of being a mentor, is saying, I don't know, but let's find out together, and then let's also find that person that does know, and that's where you build confidence.
You build that confidence, you
Yeah.
build that knowledge. I think that's just some tidbits to really keep in mind, because they do change your perspective on life.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially as you go from 18 to now I'm almost 21, and it doesn't seem like that long, but it is a wild change.
And very quick too.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to close out the episode here pretty soon. Just have a few more little questions if you want to comment on them. If you feel like you've covered them, feel free to say so. We just kind of want to know, what financial knowledge do you really wish that you knew yourself going through college, even if it's not necessarily financial knowledge?
Well, going back to the investment piece,
Yes.
I wish then that I knew what I know now, and that's my biggest piece of advice. Even if it's a very small amount, start investing in yourself now. And when I say invest in yourself, invest in some type of long-term investment strategy that 25, 30 years from now, you'll thank me for it. And then the whole being able to build credit. I mean, so those are the two biggest in financial literacy. Or outside of financial literacy, I think we've talked about it. Surround yourself with like-minded, good people.
Yes.
Enjoy the journey. The destination matters. You've got to know where you want to be and where you want to go. And it's important to establish goals. But the journey is I've learned more lessons from the journey than I have the destination. And so that's something I would remind students. And that's really it.
I know personally, to kind of comment on that, I always have to remind myself, I am just 20 years old.
Yeah.
I am still learning. It is
Yeah.
my first time living. So mistakes happen. Sometimes your budget's not going to be perfect. Sometimes you're going to not remember to invest in the quote unquote right thing. That's okay. We're only human. That's the whole purpose of this office, this entire journey that we take y'all on, is to get that confidence, be knowledgeable.
Well, and let me say one more thing, because it's
Absolutely.
really important. We're at the holidays are really tough
Yes.
on people, and in particular college students, young college students. Don't ever let the stresses of finance or academic or social, don't ever let it get to the point where you make a really bad decision.
Yes.
Because there are so many people that care about you and love you. There's no financial situation that you can't get out of. That's the good thing about being, part of the United States of America and a member of the greatest economy is we'll figure this out. So don't ever let those life stresses get you to the point where you think you can't go on.
Most definitely.
Because you can, and we're here for you, and we will collectively figure this out. Because one thing that I love about our university, we may have our differences, but Texans take care of Texans, and Texans love Texans. And so make sure that irregardless of what's going on during the holidays or any point that you reach out to you reach out to the president's office, you reach out to Dr. Ortega or whomever, allow us to be there to help you, and we will navigate this. We'll figure it out. One of the things, if you ask Kendall, what's one of the attributes you love the most about your husband, and I've heard her answer this many times when we've been on, different podcasts or
Absolutely.
interviews together, she'll say, he always says, you know what, we will figure this out. It will work its way out. We will work through this. And it usually always works its way out in a very positive manner if you allow those that can and will help you. So I want to say that. I just think it's really important because this is a really difficult time for a lot of people.
I agree. I think you'd be pretty hard-pressed to not find somebody on our university's campus or even in Texas as the state in general
Agreed.
who's not willing to help you. We all times get hard.
Yep.
I would be shocked if someone came to me and said they didn't find at least one person who was willing to try and help, even if they
Absolutely.
didn't have that knowledge.
But we'll figure it out together.
We will always
Yes.
figure it out.
Always.
Somebody, if we can't figure it out, we'll find the person to
That's
figure
right.
it out with you.
That's right.
I guess, is there any other advice that you feel you haven't touched on that you want to give students at Tarleton, whether it be regarding your financial knowledge or regarding life in general? Is there any
No,
tidbits?
that was it. Really sum it up. Just allow people to help you and keep that small tribe and your large tribe close to you. Surround yourself with like-minded, great people, and know that there's always someone there to help and to enhance your life. But also you have a requirement to pay it forward as well. And so if you're in a position to help enhance someone's life, you should do so. And that's what makes our campus culture so great.
Absolutely. I definitely agree. I'm sure, Addison,
Yes,
you definitely
I
agree
100%
as well.
agree.
I just want to say thank you again so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We understand the value, and we hope that you have kind of helped our other students realize the value if they had not yet previously.
Well, I'm thankful for you, and I'm thankful for Texan Smart and all the Texans that are either peer mentoring or some of our faculty and staff that are part of the Texan Smart team that's providing this very worthwhile, critically important endeavor for our students. So I just want to say thank you.
We really appreciate it. It's good to know we are valued.
Yeah, you are valued, very much so.
But I think that is all we have kind of set out. We've covered almost everything. We are running low on time, so I think we're going to close out the episode. Once again, if y'all have any questions, we are in the Thompson Student Center, room 12, and that is downstairs. Come see us, ask us any questions. As he said, there are so many resources on campus who are willing to help you with whatever it may be. We hope you have had a fantastic semester and will have a great wrapping up your spring semester as well. As always, be well, be ready, and be Texan Smart. Thank you, guys.